Well, hello, humans. I think I can still say that unless someone has tasked their agent with tuning in. We have a fantastic interactive session for you today on becoming an AI-driven leader, make faster, smarter decisions with AI. Jeff will let you know exactly what you need, but we'll be engaging through the chat, so feel free to add thoughts and questions there. Towards the end, we will have a designated Q&A, and tomorrow we will send out a recap with the recordings. We did have a great session with Jeff a few months ago, and he introduced us to the CRIT framework for prompting, context, role, interview, and task, helping us move beyond just asking questions or delegating tasks so that you are in the driver's seat as the thought leader and AI becomes the thought partner we all need and want. If you were not part of that session, no worries. Brief introduction to Jeff. He's the #1 best-selling author of The AI-Driven Leader. He's host of the AI-Driven Leader podcast and founder of AI Leadership and the AI-Driven Leadership Collective, a curated network of executives building better businesses and better lives through AI. As the former chief growth officer of Jindal Steel and Power, Jeff helped grow the company's market cap from 750 million to over 12 billion in 4 years. He previously co-founded the training and consulting company behind The One Thing, advising businesses from 10 mil to 60 bill in revenue. And he is an honored part of our Culturati AI task force. If you're new to Culturati, we're a community of C-suite leaders, scholars, executives, and investors who believe in the power of culture to help our employees, our organizations, and our communities all thrive. And with that, I will let Jeff take it away.
Thanks so much, Misty. Hey, everybody. This is going to be highly interactive. I'm going to constantly be asking you to go to the chat box. So do me a favor, real quick, let me know which org you're from, what your role is there, and how long you have been on your AI journey. Like, you could say today is literally my first day playing with it, to I've been doing this for years. But the reason I want this information is I'm actually going to be personalizing what we talk about based on who's actually in the room. So org, title, and how long you've been on your journey. Go ahead and put that in the chat box right now, please. All right, perfect. Hey, Serena, good to see you. A year, thanks, Keith. Hi, Debbie, about a year, perfect. Oh, how cool, John. That is not a bad place to be. About a year, okay, very good. 6 years, thanks, John. Okay, perfect. All right, when I was writing my book, The AI-Driven Leader, I found myself asking a question, which was, what if the biggest threat to your business was not the competition, but it was actually how you were thinking? This is something a group of leaders figured out firsthand. I was doing a workshop like this. It was in person. And I asked, it was a room of CEOs. And I asked a question, which is, what are the biggest problems you're facing in your business right now? And if we could just solve them, it would unlock a new level of growth for you. The question itself is strategic, because for a guy who wrote a book about AI, frankly, I really don't care about AI. And the reason I say that is do you believe that AI adoption is the sole goal of your company? I don't think any of us do. We want to build a better business. We want to create better lives. When I look at AI, I see it as something that can accelerate our ability to drive enterprise value in a competitive moat and culture, or I see it as something that can frankly distract us from it. The difference that makes the difference is not the tech, it's you as a leader. One leader looks at me and he says, I've got a really big problem. I run this manufacturing company here in the US. I leased all this capital equipment from a company in Japan, but things have started to shift in the market and the debt structure is absolutely crushing us. We're going to go bankrupt if we can't get it restructured. Oh my gosh, what have you done? He looks at me and he says, I feel like we've tried everything. And he lists off 5 very specific strategies he's deployed. And he says, none of this has worked because this is a public company in Japan that holds the debt. The board is refusing to restructure the debt because they think they'll lose face in Japanese society. I have no next steps. I think we're going out of business. Can AI help? Interesting question. My answer is I don't know. anytime I approach a use case, I really don't approach with an expectation. I approach with curiosity. Now, I have a framework, as Misty alluded to, called CRIT. This is how I communicate with AI. We've taught a lot of people this framework over the past year. It literally works for any situation. And if you can just start communicating with this, you'll probably go to the top 1% in the world in terms of your effectiveness prompting AI. It stands for context, role, interview, task. Context, you give AI lots of context. Role, this is where you tell AI the kind of expert you want it to act as on your behalf. And then the real game changer is the interview. I turn the tables and I make AI interview me. I don't ask AI questions. I get AI to interview me to pull deeper context out of my head so then it can accomplish a task. Here's the actual prompt that I wrote. Context: I'm a manufacturing CEO. I leased all this capital equipment from a company in Japan, but things have shifted in the market. The debt's killing us. We're going to go bankrupt if we don't get it restructured. We feel like we've tried everything. And I listed all 5 strategies in vivid detail. None of it has worked because this is a public company in Japan, and the board is refusing to restructure the debt because they think they'll lose face in Japanese society. I have no alternatives and feel we're going out of business. Your role is to act as an investment banker with deep expertise in restructuring debt. Interview me. Ask me one question at a time, up to 3 questions to gain deeper context. Then your task is to generate 5 non-obvious strategies I could deploy to get the board to restructure the debt. Now, out of curiosity, how many of you, so I'm curious, if you were on the last training, give me a 1. If this is your first time being on a training with me, give me a 2. That way I just know where we're at. Okay, perfect. How many of you, so if you saw a 1, you've seen this method of talking before. For those of you that just put a 2 in the chat box, how many of you are thinking, oh my gosh, I did not know you could talk to AI this way? If so, put me in the chat box. Natalie said, this framework has changed the game for me, from work issues to even a home renovation project. I love it. Missy said, can say firsthand experience with CRIT. It's a game changer in getting the right questions, context, and solutions. 100%. So here's what happened. AI turns the tables. And as an investment banker with deep expertise in restructuring debt, who also knew 2,000 years of Japanese culture and history, asked, do you have any relationships with any other execs in Japan that the board would respect? I look at the CEO and he goes, oh my gosh, I would have never thought of that. I actually do. And then it asked 2 more questions just like this before it said, here's your 5 non-obvious strategies. Number 1 on the list, it called the Saving Face Consortium. It said, you have enough relationships with all the right people in Japan. Approach them to acquire your debt. Give them super favorable terms. Your debt gets restructured. Your board saves face. I turn and I look at him. He's actually holding back tears. And he very vulnerably admits that he has not slept in 90 days. The stress has been that high that it stopped him from sleeping. And he said, for the first time, I've literally been making peace with the fact that we're going out of business. But for the first time, I got some hope. 2 months later, my phone rings and it's a text from him that says, the ball is moving. I actually think this is going to get done. What if your ability to think strategically was the difference between growing your business or going out of business? How might that shift how you allocate your time? How might that shift how you view culture? How might that shift how meetings are structured? Might it actually shift just about everything? And what if all you had to do was start asking the right questions? Now, my journey to asking the right questions started back in college. I sat down with a mentor. I asked him what job he thought I should get after school, and he just leans in and says, you are asking the wrong question, my friend. You really should be asking, what are the skills I can master that are so valuable, they'll serve me no matter where I go? This slide is tremendously important. If you look throughout history, technology has always changed the skills that are valued and the processes that are followed. I know there's a lot of fear amongst our people around job displacement. You have to ask, what is a job? which a job is just skills you apply and processes you follow. Tech is going to do what tech has always done. It's going to make certain skills more valuable and certain skills less valuable. It's going to make certain processes moving forward more valuable and certain processes less valuable. I think we as leaders, and I think this is particularly relevant for Culturati, have an opportunity, and I would even say an obligation to talk about the mindset we must have as leaders to drive throughout our organization, where we can look at this change and accept it for what it is, an opportunity. It is an opportunity to move humanity forward. It is also an opportunity to move humanity backwards. I think with the right leadership, we have an opportunity to move humanity forward. I think in an abdication of our leadership, it moves backwards. We experienced this with the internet and social media. We abdicated our responsibility as leaders when it came to protecting the interests of humans and our kids. I think we've woken up a little bit. This is one of my big calls to action here is how do we become AI driven leaders where we learn to harness this technology in a way that it actually becomes an enhancement, not necessarily a replacement. Now, for me, the way I really ended up getting into AI was when I was chief growth officer of Jindal Steel. I was responsible for driving growth of an org of about 100,000 people around the world. My focus was very narrow. It is the four puzzle pieces on the left. Think of us like an alphabet is to a Google. We had a parent company that was Jindal Group, and then we had a bunch of operating companies. I would work with the C-suite of every operating company to first and foremost define strategy. What's the business that's going to put us out of business? What would it look like for us to be the ones that built it first? Can we really articulate what our competitive advantage is that's going to cause us to win in the market? That's strategy. Execution was about aligning our business plan for the year with strategy and staying focused on executing it. Then people, I had this huge realization, and I would love your thoughts. Why do we hire people? Why do we hire people in our companies? Put your answer in the chat. I'm really curious. Why do we hire people? Amy says growth, help execute the goals of the business. Thanks, Brandy, to get the job done. Experience to do work for us, to help us make money. Said simply, to put it on a bumper sticker, to achieve our goals. Next question, how often do goals change? Put your answer in the chat box. How often do our goals change? Frequently, continuously, daily. Second question, or third question, how often do job descriptions change? Rarely, never. This was my epiphany. I was like, oh my gosh, look at all the people we have around the world that are so talented, but they're working enthusiastically on things that are not dynamically in alignment with the goals of the company. How might we dynamically align a workforce of this size? And the only way you could do that is if you looked at tech. It was December of 22 when I saw ChatGPT for the first time. It had literally been out for 2 weeks. And I think like a lot of us, how many of you, when you saw it, you thought, that's really cool. I'm busy. I'll get to it later. If so, give me a 1 in the chat box. How many of you thought, this is something that my IT department will figure out. Let IT take care of that. If so, give me a 2. If you thought both of those, give me a 3. I'm a 3, by the way. But then that quote that was in my mind, focus on the skills that are so valuable, they'll serve you no matter where you go. Like something in my soul said, this is a skill worth harnessing. Don't delegate this, lead it. And I made a commitment. I was going to use this once a day, every day. The problem is I was asking myself all the wrong questions. I was asking, how do I use this to write a better email? How do I use this to be a Google replacement? Does anybody resonate with this? And I wondered why it felt like a waste of time. But then I had this realization that my career has been defined by asking leaders the right questions to unlock new levels of growth. Here I am asking AI questions. Could I maybe turn the tables and make AI ask me the right questions to enhance how I think? That was the game changer. I was in India every quarter. I'm at the chairman's house, and I physically pulled out my computer and showed him how I was using this, not for tactics, but for strategy. And he goes, this is incredible. I said, yeah, it's the future. And he goes, I agree. I said, I think we should drive it through the whole company. He goes, I agree. And I said, so important. I think you got to own this at the board level as chairman. And he goes, I disagree. What if you did it? One tiny little problem. I know nothing about AI. I'm not technical. I literally don't have a technical bone in my body. But I learned something from my old business partner. His name's Gary Keller. He started a company called Keller Williams. He said, anytime you're hitting a ceiling of achievement, you're just missing a person. Asking, how can I drive this through the org was the wrong question. Asking, who can I get into relationship with that could enable me to drive this through the company? Better question. And that led to a partnership with Google. I learned a lot about the tech, about how you identify use cases, how you tune models. And as we started to drive it through the org, I began to realize, oh my gosh, I think we're asking the wrong questions. We're asking, what's the use case? But AI adoption is not our goal. Moving the stock price is. And that's when I just realized the difference that makes the difference with this tech is not the tech. It is you. It is you. It is your leadership, which is why I really wanted to do this session. Because I know if I can shift your mindset at the C-suite, I know what it looks like when we get the C-suite on board and really using this strategically, how it changes the game throughout the org. And ultimately, this led to me writing my book, The AI-Driven Leader. It's now #1 in the world for its category. And I have built a company called AI Leadership, which focuses on helping C-suite execs harness this technology in a way that moves their stock price and builds a competitive advantage. I think the biggest thing I have learned actually helping companies drive this now is most leaders are asking the wrong questions about AI. They're asking where do we use it? What's the use case? But that is thinking technology first, strategy second. I have firmly been in the place of strategy first, technology second. And this ultimately led to creating a whole business transformation system, starting with defining your strategy for how you're going to win. Because frankly, whatever you thought your competitive advantage was, you may want to ask, is it still defensible? Is it still sustainable? What about how we used to win is still defensible? And what about how we used to win is no longer going to remain relevant? Based on that, we set our goals for the company. Based on that, we create our business plan and create an AI roadmap that is in alignment with driving our business plan, in alignment with our strategy. Then we align the execution throughout the workforce. We collaborate internally to transform, and we realign constantly because things are constantly changing. For you, it comes down to defining strategy, aligning execution, and collaborating to transform. As a result, you have a more valuable company that stays ahead of the competition. You are going to hear me hammer this. I don't care about AI. I care about AI accelerating the execution of your plan in alignment with your strategy to win. That is how you move your stock price or how you raise your enterprise value if you are private. Now, how many of you still feel like you know AI is the future, but you may not know where to start, and deep down you really wonder if you're falling behind? If so, put me in the chat box. How many of you think you're behind? Are you? What do you think? Are you? What if that was the wrong question? I think a better question to ask is, can we still win? Um, and that answer is yes. Yes, you can. Because frankly, are you behind, by the way? Most likely, yes. Does that matter? No, because it's so early in the game. And what I'm going to show you here on this session, your competition, I doubt, is thinking this way. If you start thinking this way, not only will you be able to catch up, you will start to lead them, but it comes down to how we think about this. And it is going to require you to lead this from the top. Now, right now, still, most people are using AI one of two ways. It's either a really smart Google or it's an assistant that they delegate tasks to, like writing a better email. My realization is, and by the way, if you're using it this way, you get double high fives from me because you're using it. Good job. But these are the 80% tasks that drive 20% of the value. What if your real opportunity was to don't even worry about those, but instead just focus on the 20% priorities that drove 80% of the results? And that's what happens when you start to view this as a thought partner with you as thought leader. This is a much higher expectation and standard for your relationship with. And this is all about enhancing how you think, because how you think drives how you act, and drive how you act drives the results that you get. And that's where crit comes in. You give it context, you assign it a role, you ask it to interview, and then you give it a task. I'm going to share two real use cases with you of what this looks like. Then I'm going to do a live demo in front of all of you. And I'm going to ask you right now to start thinking about what is a problem that you personally are facing right now, that if we could just solve it, it would unlock a new level of growth for you. It's truly a 20% priority that could drive 80% of the results. I'm going to ask one of you to come off mute, and I'm going to try to solve your problem in front of everybody using crit. Before we do that, I'm going to tell you two stories. First is a CEO came to me and said, we have a problem. We have a hostile board. How many of you have boards, actual boards? Yes, Misty, you'll be able to. Oh, I hope you can unmute them. If not, they can call my cell and we'll do it. Okay. He said, despite us killing our numbers every single quarter, every quarter is a bloodbath. I just got a call from the chairman saying that our relationship is so dysfunctional, he's giving me 6 months to rehab the relationship. But if by the second board meeting, I have not completely turned the relationship around, he is going to fire me, my whole executive team, and bring in a new team to take the company forward. And I looked at him and said, what are you going to do? He goes, I honestly don't know. I swear, Geoff, it's not me. It's like our board has all this childhood trauma and they think we're their punching bag. I really don't know what to do. Can AI help? I said, I don't know, but I have an idea. Can you pull your executive team together on Zoom right now? He said, yeah, sure. What do you have in mind? I said, well, I'm wondering if we can create an AI board. Excuse me? Well, I'm wondering if we can get AI to interview your executive team about every board member until it understands each member on such a deep level that it could create a personality profile for every one of them. So I could take those personality profiles, feed it to a custom GPT, which is just a mini app inside of ChatGPT, so that we could feed the deck to the AI board before the meeting, so the AI board could tell us what the board will say before they ever say it. How many months is this going to take to build? Months will be done in an hour. How the heck are you going to do that? Crit. Context. I'm the CEO of company name. We are working toward an exit in the next 24 months. Our biggest challenge is a hostile board. Every quarter is a bloodbath. 50% of my executive team's time is wasted throughout the month with board distractions. I just got a call from the chairman recently saying I've got 6 months to turn the relationship around or we're all gone. I really don't think it's us. I think it's them. Role. Your role is to act as an HR professional with deep expertise in creating personality profiles. Interview me. Ask me one question at a time, as many questions as you want, until you can understand one board member on a deep level. Then your task is to generate a personality profile for her we could use to train a custom GPT to create an AI board. AI conducts an interview and it spits out a personality profile. Now I look at the CEO and I say, do not trust it. Why would I say that? Put your answer in the chat box. I got to a good draft, it's just predicting what the next word is. I said, and this is, by the way, when you're training your people, yes, Kate, it needs validation. Whenever you get the answer, do not accept it. Think about, and I would write these things down. What do I like about it? What do I not like about it? What are the top changes it would have to make? What do I like? What don't I like? What are the top changes? And he starts hammering away his answers to those questions, sends it, and it goes, boom. And the profile was incredible. We did that for every board member, fed those profiles into a GPT, and within a few minutes, we had created an AI board. We were able to feed that deck to the board, their previous deck, just to test it, last quarter's deck, and the board came back. Here's what it said that really blew their mind. On page 8, Susan is going to get distracted by all the details of the slide. This is going to lead to a 30-minute detour. It's going to derail your whole agenda. Instead of all the details, say these 3 things because it's what she cares about most. The C-suite used the AI board over the next 6 months. It literally saved all their jobs. To date, they are still all gainfully employed. To date, they are still crushing their numbers. To date, the AI board continues to be a valuable asset. How many of you, out of curiosity, are starting to think just a little bit differently about how you might harness this technology? By the way, you can do this with ChatGPT. You can do this with Copilot. You can do this. The LLM does not matter. I'm going to give you one more, and then I'm going to turn the tables. And actually, instead of me just doing a live demo, I'm actually going to have all of you do your own use case. One more. I was on a flight maybe 2 months ago, and the question is, how many of you think your goals are big enough? Put a 1 if you think your current goals are big enough. Put a 2 in the chat box if you think your goals might be too small for your company. Okay. I had set a goal. I have a sense of where we're going to finish by the end of the year. It's decent in terms of revenue. I had a vision to 25x revenue over the next 10 years. The thing is, when I set that goal, it felt impossible. 2 months ago, as I was reviewing the goal, it felt probable, meaning it's the wrong goal. Because if I can see a clear path to hitting it, I'm thinking too small. And I found myself asking, what would an impossible goal feel like? And I thought, well, what if I added a 0 and it was 250x revenue? But instead of 10 years, we did it in 3. I kid you not, I actually felt nauseous when I wrote that out, which for me was like, good, that's the right goal. I went to my AI board. I've created my own AI board that has been, I don't have a real board. It's custom architected to advise me to where I want to go for the next 10 years. Steve Jobs is on my board. Warren Buffett is on my board. Jeff Bezos is on my board. My future self, 30 years in the future, is on my board so I can have conversations with the man I want to become today. And I wrote crit and literally said, here's our 10-year vision. Here's our KPIs. Here's our financials. Here's why I think I'm thinking too small. I'm now asking the question, how do we get to 250x revenue? But in 10 years, let's do it in 3. I don't see the path, but here's what everything that's happening inside the business. And I mean, I'm not kidding. I fed it context for like 10 minutes. Roll, be the board, conduct an interview of me for about 10 minutes. And I want you to ask one question at a time to really understand, what are we currently doing that actually has the scalability to get to 250x in 3 years? What are we currently doing that used to be a priority, but would now become a distraction because it doesn't have that level of scalability? What are we not doing that we should be doing that would allow us to get to that level? Then task, lay out the plan of how we get there. In about an hour of back and forth conversation with my AI board, I actually had a plan to 250x revenue in the next 3 years. This is an example of harnessing this to think a bit more strategically. Want to do it yourself? So right now, I'm going to turn the tables. And what we are going to do is I'm going to ask you to think of a problem that you have that is big, that if you could solve it, it would unlock a new level of growth for you. So take about 30 seconds to really think about something that would matter. And then I'm going to write the initial crit framework and paste it in the chat box for you. So you can just copy and paste it into your LLM of choice and fill in the gaps. You start thinking about your problem. I'm going to start writing your prompt. Actually, I think I'm going to share my screen. I think it's going to cut off your music, but that's okay. It's actually more valuable for you to see how I write the prompt. So right off the bat, you're noticing I'm putting it in all caps. I'm putting stars before and after. That's an advanced move. It's called a delimiter. If you want to make things pop, that's how you make it pop. I'm also skipping rows. The way you skip rows is you hold down shift and then hit enter or shift return. If you just hit enter, it's going to send your prompt. Don't worry, you can always click stop and you can edit it. So context. You're literally going to use that, copy and paste. Okay, I am copying and pasting this into the chat box for you right now. So literally go ahead and copy the prompt I just put into the chat box, paste it into your LLM of choice, and then anything I put inside of little brackets, that's me giving you a prompt. Like, describe the challenge you're facing. We're trying to drive AI adoption across the company. We're really struggling because not everybody's getting on board, and we have a vision of having 100% adoption of AI within the next 6 months. Blah 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 blah. Your role is to act as a global consultant who has deep expertise in organizational design. You're also an expert in AI, and you know exactly how to get people to embrace AI in a way that can move their business forward. Like, be detailed, be specific. The higher quality you put in, the higher quality you are going to get out. Now we'll play a little bit of music. You get to have some fun. I would love your feedback. How was that experience? And how might it have been different from past experiences that you had with AI? John, you're not late. You're just purposeful. Eye-opening and insightful. Kate, can you expand? What about it? I love it, by the way. Very fruitful. Love the turning of the tables and asking Perplexity to interview me. Yeah, fantastic. And I think that's a key. You can do this with any of the models. If you guys are a Copilot shop, fantastic platform. Microsoft's done a great job. If you guys are using ChatGPT, awesome. If you're using Claude, Gemini, Perplexity, Llama, Grok, they all work. What's going to matter is your org picking one that meets your security provisions, and it's more about how you wield the tool that you have. Love the first question in the interview. Thanks, Michelle. Very good. Very good. So, my question, how has your mindset shifted during our conversation today about AI? What's different about how you're thinking about it now? Put that in the chat box. What's different about how you're thinking about it? I can see the immediate thoughtful thinking. It's purely creative or pure creativity. Now I have a strategic advisor. Don't be intimidated. Yes. Using it more strategically as a thought partner. Very good. No one should fear this technology. And some people will, and that's okay. And we have an opportunity to meet them where they're at. And I think one of the most powerful things you can do is to sit down with them and to show them, like, hey, what's a problem you're facing? That if we could solve it, it would bring real value to you and the company. And then write crit with them and have them have this light bulb moment. And they're going to go, oh, because I think how many of you feel like you were just enhanced, not replaced? How many of you feel like you had to do more thinking than normal just doing this? You actually get to choose. If you want this to replace you, you can let it replace you. You want this to enhance you, you can choose for it to enhance you. This is why my book is way less of an AI book. It's more about leadership. This is the difference that's going to make the difference. Okay. Very, very, very good job. I love this enhancement. Okay. Let me show you how our thinking in terms of driving this through the org, because I think this will make a big difference for you. Because again, I'm seeing how most companies are thinking about this, and I think they're asking themselves the wrong questions. And I would prefer you to be asking the right ones. Okay. Um, Here's why I think most companies are failing when it comes to AI. Leaders are starting with the wrong questions. What use case should we focus on? But it's making AI the goal. It is not your goal. Pilots, they're fragmented across departments. You're having wins and failures in your org, but they're locked away in their silos. They're not being shared cross functionally. Training and usage is oftentimes being pushed without directly tying it to business value. And the AI implementation overall sometimes lacks a clear tie to the business plan or the long term strategy. And people still think this is a tech initiative versus a growth lever that needs to be owned by the C suite. According to Rand Corp, 80% of the initiatives are failing because they're disconnected from the core business strategy. And Gartner said that they predict that 40% of agentic AI use cases will be canceled in the next 2 years because they simply will not drive value. There are billions of dollars being thrown at this, but it's like just throwing something against a wall versus clearly looking at the target of what is our goal? What tools do we have at our disposal? And how do I pick the right arrow and pull it back and release it correctly so that I actually hit my target? For us, we have seen success taking a different approach. And I would take a picture of this slide when it's done. One, everything is tied to strategy. Strategy first, technology second. Then when we start, it is all about how we enhance thinking, using AI as a thought partner, not just as an assistant or a Google, and acting bolder. I mean, I shared a personal story of how do we set bigger goals that frankly feel impossible until we harness AI to unlock a deeper level of thinking and show us the path to get there, to help us see what we don't see, to unlock innovation by breaking down the silos and centralizing the intelligence of the people in your org and ultimately delivering results, meaning this is at an executive level, staying focused and accountable to using this in a way that whether it's moving your stock price, moving enterprise value, or if there's some other KPI that you are tracking. And this is not theory, we've done it. This is a big part of how we grew the market cap of Jindal from 750 million to 12 billion. We had a Fortune 500 company this year in one use case drove $300 million to the bottom line. Another company, we took their entire strategic planning process and collapsed it from months to literally 2 days using AI through the whole process. Another company, we did an AI-driven spend analysis. We fed it the last 2 years' data of spend analysis, wrote crit. They were able to recognize the equivalent of 2% of revenue in cost savings in the next 30 days without firing a single person. And another company, this is opening up an entire new revenue line that they project will deliver 40% revenue growth. This is what I mean. Instead of like, ooh, how do we make our people more productive? Or can we get a little bit more efficient with this? I'm asking, how do we drop millions, if not billions, to either bottom line or enterprise value? Does this look familiar? Set your strategy, set your goals, create the business plan, execute the plan while also transforming for the future and then trying to realign quarterly. Does that sound familiar? If so, put yes in the chat box. We all done it. This is timeless. But then how many of you feel like this starts to happen? How many of you resonate with this slide a little bit more? Give me a 1 in the chat box. Super normal. What if the greatest opportunity with AI was not in finding something to do with AI, but actually using it as a tool to align strategy, planning, and execution so you accelerate growth and a competitive advantage? And for us, this is what it has started to look like. Same wheel, but timeless. Get offsite with the executive team to define the strategy, set the goals, create the plan, then create an AI roadmap in alignment with those three things. And then what if you harnessed AI as your execution engine all the way around? Then what if you were able to have a methodology to align execution from an annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly basis that AI drove. It knew the goals of the company. It knew the roles of every person. It knew the KPIs and what was on their calendar and could be a thought partner to say, here's what you need to do differently in order to stay on alignment with your goals. And then you broke down the silos, not by viewing this as an individual sport, but playing a team sport, which our model is called the collective, for how you bring leaders together to actually centralize knowledge cross-functionally so you unlock an innovation flywheel, and then you meet quarterly to realign. I actually think this is the greatest opportunity with AI, is not looking for separate use cases, but looking at how you use this to drive what is timeless, aligning strategy, planning, and execution. This is what our whole company has become, has been driving this. I would encourage you to start to view your opportunity in a similar play. Now, why now? This is an image of Fifth Avenue in New York City in 1900. It is all horse and buggy, and there is one car. This is an image of Fifth Avenue in New York City. It is all cars, zero horses, zero buggies. How much time did that take? Just 13 years. My question for you is, do you think AI is going to give you that much time? What do you think? I don't think so. According to Eric Schmidt, former CEO of Google, you got 5 years or less. He said literally everything you're going to know about how your business operates is going to change within 5 years, not 10, 5. And oh, by the way, he said this a year ago. I think leaders are grossly underestimating how fast this is going to happen. They are failing so slowly, they think they're succeeding, but it's going to be gradual and then it's going to be sudden. Because you have spent a career building something that matters, a culture, a reputation, a business. But the rules of the game, they are changing, and they are changing fast. AI is not coming. It is here. The problem is most leaders are bluffing. When the board asks, how are you harnessing this in a way that drives an ROI? Or when your customers ask, how are you using this to deliver the same level of service or a higher level of service at a lower cost? That silence, that is the sound of your relevance slipping. It is the sound of your market share eroding. It is the sound of your legacy being questioned. Now, why you? According to McKinsey, they published a study. Guess what the number one determiner of ROI with AI is? Number one, most important thing to make sure you get an ROI with AI: CEO's direct oversight. Now, I am aware not all of you are the CEO, but what you are is a leader inside your org. And whether you're the CEO or not, the message I am delivering to you is very clear. I do not need you to be an AI expert. I just need you to be an AI-driven leader. And just remember, anytime you're hitting a ceiling of achievement, you're just missing a person. And more about collaboration. Now we're going to get into Q&A. I know we got about 5 minutes left. I do have something to give you guys. We have done a benchmark that we can give you guys for free. If you scan the QR code, it will interview you about the org, and it's going to send you an AI-driven report that's going to show you where your org falls in terms of degrees of maturity when it comes to harnessing AI, where you're strong, where there's holes, and some things you may want to think about to be a bit more strategic when it comes to driving this inside the org. So, Q&A time. Misty.
Thank you so much, Geoff. I know we had two questions from Keith. One, curious how to create permanency with personas like board members, so
Sure.
GPT remembers them.
Yeah, so Keith, it's pretty simple, and it depends on what platform you are using. I can just show you. Here we go. So like inside, if you can still see my screen, here's my personal AI board. Can you see the screen, Misty?
Yes, we can.
So you see files right here. I've got my future self, Steve Jobs, our strategic plan for the next 10 years, our current year business plan, our culture documents. I've got a bunch of different source files in here that act as the personas. And then I've got custom instructions embedded on how I want this thing to behave as. Guess how I wrote all of them? Crit. I've built a health coach that is a combination of a personal trainer, a nutritionist, and a psychologist who's an expert at rewiring my identity to align my habits with my longevity goals. It knows my labs, it knows what my doctor has said, and it literally tells me what to eat every day in alignment with the macros that my doctor has told me. I lost 15 pounds in the last 30 days, and I'm eating more food than I've ever eaten in my life. So these are two real examples of what that looks like.
Awesome. Keith's other question, I struggle getting AI to ingest docs, strat plans, Excel budget, and output ideas based on their ingestion.
How are you feeding it? What model are you using? Chat, Copilot, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity? Are you feeding it PDFs, or how are you feeding it? I will often times feed PDFs to it, especially if it's a really long doc. Now, if you're feeding Excel sheets, like I feed it our financials every month. I actually have a strategic CFO GPT that literally takes my financials, interviews me, asks me 5 questions, and tells me the top 5 things I don't know about my business that I should know about my business based on my financials. Um, it can read the balance sheet, it can read the P&L, it can read the cash flow, and they're all different tabs. So I'm not 100% sure. I've tried several models. I have fed it Word doc, Excel, PDFs. So very gently, Keith, I am going to say that the common theme there is you. So I would ask AI to teach you how to upload it in a way that it will ingest it correctly. It's probably user error. And I say that with lots of hugs and kisses. You can do this.
What other questions, guys? We're at a minute till.
I'm going to give you one final thing. Um, nope, that's not it. Simple homework. Grab 2 sticky notes and a Sharpie. On sticky note number one, write, how can AI help me do this? On sticky note number 2, write context, role, interview, task. I keep both those sticky notes on my desk. That'll change the game for you because it'll constantly remind you, how can AI help me do this? And then it'll have crit right there. The end.
We've got a few questions coming in. I know we're at time, but if you can get to
I
these, they're
I
really
actually
good
am I
questions.
actually am gonna have to jump, so we'll have to save it for another day. But you guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, y'all.
All
Bye
right, see ya.
bye.